an up prayer if it's not on there?
I'll throw it on there. Let me know when you're ready, because I want to get going.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
let's go.
Go.
Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 24th. It is now 7:54 p.m. Sorry for the late start. Town Council meeting in the Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. John, will you lead us in prayer?
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come together this evening as devoted stewards, determined to lead and mindful of our purpose. Guide our hearts and our minds in the decisions that we make and the matters that come before us. Bless this meeting with your divine presence. Guide our actions as this council works to serve the best interests of the good people of the town of West Warwick. Amen.
Amen. Andrew, lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Padula,
I think he's still here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Okay. You want to close those? Yep.
Under section 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A2 of Rhode Island General Laws, the Town Council will close the executive session dated for today, Tuesday, April 24th, in a closed meeting that discussed interest arbitrations for wage reopeners for fire and police unions under the prevailing collective bargaining agreements.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Council President, I wanted to make a motion to move item I up on the agenda, to put it at the front.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and the reason for that discussion real quick is because we are paying an attorney to be here tonight. So, and it's not this attorney. It's a little more expensive over that way.
Bill, you're not sleeping, are you?
All in favor to move aye?
Aye.
Okay, just move that, please.
Amendment to Article 13 of the collective bargaining agreement between the Town of West Warwick and Local 1104 International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, effective July 1st, 2014 through to July 30th, 2019, sponsored by Town Council.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Manager?
Yes, by way of background, the contracts that were established are approved on July 1st, 2014, were 5-year agreements for fiscal years 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. They included, as part of the agreement, were 0 wage increases for those 5 years, with the last 2 years, fiscal year 18, which is what we are currently in, and fiscal 19, which is the upcoming budget year. Both those 2 fiscal years had wage reopeners in those agreements. During that time, the town of West Warwick and the IAFF local union began negotiations for the wage reopener for FY18. There was no agreement, so an arbitration ensued. And again, for those in the public, if there's no agreement and an arbitration panel is constituted, one member selected by the town, one member selected by the union, and those two will select the third member. So at the present time, we've had some arbitration sessions with the fire union. We have ceased those pending further negotiations. And the result of our negotiations has been a tentative agreement where the town and fire union would agree to a 3.5% increase starting July 1st of 2018. There would be no, under that agreement, there would be no retroactive wage payment for the current year we're in, fiscal year 18, from July 1st of 18 to June 30th of, July 1st of 17 to June 30th of 18. So basically what this does, it consolidates both those wage reopeners into one award with no retroactive pay. And looking at this, one of the reasons for the recommendation is the retroactive pay. Clearly, that would be an expense that the town would have. Potentially, depending upon the award, there would be an expense which would be in FY18 as well as carried over to 19. And if we use a recent award from the police example, that could be very expensive for the town for those 2 years, for 18, plus what would be carried over to 19, plus the fact that we would also have to negotiate a wage reopener for 19 and the cost and uncertainty of that. The uncertainty of a wage increase, the uncertainty of what that would be for arbitration if we go there, plus all the expenses for legal expenses, the arbitrators, and the fees associated with the arbitration. So it is my recommendation that the council consider and adopt the following resolution. Again, there would be no retroactive pay for FY18, and going forward 19, there would be a 3.5% increase. The estimated fiscal impact of that would be $226,000, $226,059.81. And again, that would be July 1st, which funds were budgeted for in the FY19 budget. There were no funds budgeted in 18. So again, what this gives us is the ability to go forward in 19, no reactor pay, and the potential of an award, being doubled on that. So I believe this is in the best interest of the town, the residents, and the fire union, and I would recommend your approval.
Any questions for Ernie? I just want to point out, by these negotiations with the fire union, if we went to arbitration and they did win, and it went back to retroactive, we would probably spend about $366,000 more dollars than what we are now. It's no hidden secret, police did win in arbitration. They got awarded 2.75%, and now they are going into a wage reopener for 2019. And we still have to negotiate that. At this point, I agree with the town manager that not being retroactive is key, because that $366,000 is savings to the town in the long end, especially if we would have saved in court. Arbitration runs anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 on any given day. Am I correct, Mr. Dolan?
Yes, you are.
And again, this is for the best interest of the town. It is saving $366,000. Any questions for Ernie? Any public comment? Hearing none, I want to take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
I'm going to vote no for the reasons that I stated at executive session.
Okay. Jay?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Presentation and consideration of a proposed West Warwick Stormwater Utility District and ordinance by ESS Group, Inc.
Okay. How you doing?
Hi, good evening.
Just state your name for the record so we have it.
My name is Jason Gold. I'm a civil engineer with ESS Group. I'm here tonight to present an overview of stormwater work that we've conducted since 2014 under a grant from NUEPA. The purpose of this presentation is informational only. There's no vote required or any decisions that need to be made. This is a requirement of the grant.
How much of a grant did we get?
200, I'll get to that, it's $275,000. There's a few problems, stormwater problems. I'm gonna go to the stormwater problems, some technical solutions we looked at very briefly, and then funding solutions for these. So obviously, some stormwater issues, flooding, West Warwick's drainage utilities are aging and they're inadequate. There's quite a bit of flooding issues, and also water quality. Pollutants, bacteria, nitrogen, metals, phosphorus getting into the water. And then the other problem is funding it. How do we pay for stormwater utilities and improvements to address those problems? So the town applied for and was awarded a grant from UIPIC for $237,000. It was awarded in 2014. Included a few key tasks, BMP design work and installation, the design work portion that has been completed, public involvement, which was done last month during a town planning board meeting, and then the introduction of the stormwater utility, which is the purpose of the meeting tonight. And feel free to jump in and ask questions during the presentation if you want. So just briefly, I'm not going to get into this in too much detail, but we did look at 6 conceptual BMPs that were looked at in a previous phase. This grant is for phase 3. Phase 2 selected 6 areas that required or that warranted additional design. We've prepared budget level design for these areas, and then Pennsylvania Avenue was advanced to a permit level design. Those designs include infiltration, bioretention, filtration, and sand filtration. Of course, paying for it is always a challenge. So we looked at a stormwater utility. The stormwater utility is just like a sewer utility, right? Sewer utility pay for sewage based on the amount you generate. The stormwater utility uses fees based on the amount of stormwater runoff that's generated. Just like sewer, that money is held in a dedicated account to pay for stormwater. Stormwater has pipes and operation and maintenance expenses, needs to be maintained, improved to meet all the state requirements, but there's no dedicated funding for it. So that's the purpose of this stormwater utility.
So that would be another tax on the citizens? That would be a tax?
It would be a utility fee. Some of the benefits, it's a sustainable funding source because it's a dedicated fund. It can attract external investments, such as, this grant, we need to match funds, so there'd be funds available for matching. It would fund the approximately $500,000 it costs now to operate the drainage system and maintain it, as well as cover the debt service on $4 million in capital improvements. So draft stormwater utility ordinance has been prepared. I have these if you want to pass that out. The stormwater utility ordinance is authorized by Rhode Island General Law. The Rhode Island Stormwater Management Utility District Act of 2002. And that law authorizes the adoption of ordinances creating stormwater management districts to, quote, eliminate and prevent contamination of the state's waters, and to operate and maintain existing stormwater conveyance system. Essentially what the ordinance does is it establishes the jurisdiction of the stormwater utility, which is the stormwater management district, and in this case it would be the entire town. It establishes the stormwater utility commission, which the way the ordinance is set up is the stormwater utility commission is the town council. And similarly, the commission, the rules and the organization of the commission is linked to that established for the town council. It establishes a superintendent of the storm sewer system. That would be a professional engineer who's recommended by the town manager and then appointed by the stormwater utility commission, the town council. This superintendent is responsible for storm sewer operation and maintenance and improvements, consultation with the commission, and they're also authorized to delegate to the DPW if it's appropriate in consultation with the DPW director. The ordinance establishes a stormwater fund. And that's a dedicated fund, as I mentioned, to manage that money, so that can only be used for stormwater operation, maintenance, and improvements. And it establishes the user fees and credits. Here's the difference between the tax and the fee, as you mentioned. So right now, stormwater is paid for from taxes, from the general fund, right? It's not proportional to how much stormwater runoff is generated from a particular property. And it's competing with, all the other needs of the general fund. Stormwater utility, like I said, it's more like a sewer utility, right? Sewer utility you pay based on the amount of water you use, and that is related to how much sewage you're using, you're discharging, so the fee is based on that. A stormwater utility is proportional to the amount of impervious area of the property. The amount of impervious area in the property is related to the amount of stormwater runoff and pollution that's generated from the property. And unlike having a general fund, this is a dedicated fund.
Can I jump in here,
Please do,
because
yeah.
this is something I asked the previous town manager when this was first brought up a few years back. And I just heard you say it was by charging by the impervious area that a person, a resident or a business owns. So I asked at that time the rate per square foot.
Right.
And when he said, I forgot exactly what dollar amount. Did you have a dollar amount or whatever per
I do.
square foot? Because
So I don't have the per square foot, but the way the fee was derived is the total cost of operating it plus that debt service divided by the 63 million square feet of privately owned impervious area. That gives you $1 per square foot. Rather than try to calculate the square foot of every single property, that would be onerous. A statistical analysis was done to find the average impervious area for single-family to five-family residences, which is about 3,700 square feet. And that comes out to $55 a year. So it's about $14 a quarter for a single to five-family residences.
That's what I was told at the time.
no, but the commercial property is what concerned me, because I used Cardi's, I used a lot of properties on 9J Peacock's Communications, and I used the funeral home in your ward, I used a couple down in my ward, and what scared me was it could possibly affect businesses by hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the way it was explained to me. And, we're going through a budget time last night, we're talking about, $1,000 a year, and then we're talking about drainage of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for these businesses. I just wanna make sure of where you stand on commercial properties and five-family and above.
Right, so I don't have numbers on any of these sample properties, but the way it works is it's in units of the residential. So if a commercial property has 3 times as much impervious area as the average residential property, then it'll be 3 times as much.
But they would also figure into that calculation the sidewalks, the walkways to their house, the pavements, their driveways. So that's also considering square footage, not only of the house, but of the property that's paved, because that is a runoff.
It's yes and no. So the per square foot cost is divided by the privately owned impervious area. So not the streets, because you can't charge a fee to the town, right, for the town.
No, but we can charge the taxpayers.
So it's built into that. So it's, the fee takes that into account, but the impervious area is measured on your property.
So,
This is the way it's
that's what I'm saying, like a Cardi's.
Time to go to Florida with palm
So-
trees.
Cardi's is 90% pavement, the rest is island with some bushes on it. And so that's what I asked what Cardi's rate would be.
Right.
And
Of course.
I don't know if I got the correct answer, but.
Yeah, okay.
Takes
Yeah,
three.
I don't have the numbers on it, but, yeah, it would be significantly more, and that's kind of the intent, right? Is all that impervious area is generating a lot more runoff than a residence, right? And so the utility charges the commercial properties with a lot more impervious area, more than a residence who, has a driveway. Has a roof.
I just want to clarify, this is the first time, and I'm hearing comments in the back of me, this is the first time the town council has seen this also. Doesn't take three, because we don't even know what's going on here ourselves. I just want to make it clear that this is the first time that this entire town council has seen this presentation. It doesn't mean we support the presentation, we're here to learn about it.
Does that?
All right, that answers a little bit. It's not as bad as, not as extravagant as I thought it was.
And, it will be more commercial, that's the intent. Now, because the fee is based on stormwater runoff that's being generated, there's also credit for stormwater runoff reduction, to be equitable. So, new construction, obviously required to meet stormwater requirements, DEM stormwater requirements, you have to provide some groundwater infiltration volumes, some water quality volume anyway. Anything above and beyond that, up to a certain amount, will qualify for a credit from that. So that you're being credited for a reduction in runoff. And then for retrofits, any property that exists, older properties that were built before these requirements, they can qualify for credit by providing that water quality treatment or the groundwater recharge. And it's a scale. So if you can't provide all the water quality treatment, which happens a lot on retrofits, you get partial credit for the partial treatment. Any questions on the credit? So the next steps, if you choose to do so, this presentation is all that's required by the grant. So by doing this presentation, by hearing this out, you've met the requirements for the grant. If you choose to continue on this, the next steps would be to finalize and adopt the stormwater utility ordinance, which you have, and then prioritize additional stormwater improvements. So we have, some budget level designs already. The next step would be advancing those designs and constructing them as the funds become available.
Any questions? Ernie?
Jason, can you tell me how many communities in Rhode Island have these stormwater districts and who they would be?
How many in Rhode Island already?
Yes.
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Thank you.
I know there's growing interest in it, but I don't know that number.
Any public comment? Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Jay, you want to flip that way? Looked better a few minutes ago.
Minutes of the previous meeting, resolved that the minutes of the March 19th, 2018 FY19 budget workshop, March 20th, 2018 executive session, March 20th, 2018 town council meeting, April 3rd, 2018 FY19 public hearing, April 3rd, 2018 town council meeting, and April 10th, 2018 FY19 public hearing are hereby accepted.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agenda license applications, resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Should have everything and a note, April 12th, bit of everything has been inspected and is not approved by Lieutenant William Leahy. So I don't know what the council wants to do.
Well, when we pass the licenses, they have to be police and fire approval anyway, and building official, so. Which one's that one?
Bit of everything, 749A Main Street has been inspected and is not approved per William Leahy, April 12, 2018.
Paula?
No longer go in there.
All right, so,
She came in today, they're going to a different location, so,
In West Warwick?
in West Warwick.
so 749 Main Street, that was the one that was on the news Sunday, so.
So they have to, it has to be taken off and redone, because
Going to a different address.
everything on there's got 749 Main Street.
So, let's
She
scratch.
hasn't reapplied for the new location.
Right.
She came in today and told me she wasn't going there anymore.
All right, so you cannot approve that application at that address. So you just have to omit that.
So someone want to make an motion to omit?
I'll make the motion to amend.
Second.
All in favor to omit a bit of everything?
Aye.
All right, so there's only two other, there's hawkers and peddlers and Sacchetti trucker on here now, that's it.
Is a bit of everything the name of the place?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Just wanna make sure.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agendas, resolved that the consent agenda, correspondence, resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Yeah, Dave, there's one thing on here, Judy
Judy
T.
T's, all set.
We just-
Paula said that's all set, Paula?
We had to bring it up. We have to,
You wanna give up.
Yeah, that's
always
fine, we
give-
always give $100,
yeah.
same thing as every year.
That's the only thing I know.
Also, I
on
just
this.
want you to make sure, Barrington sent over a resolution in opposition to acts relating to labor relations, arbitration, continuing. They want us to support that, so Town of Barrington also passed a couple of resolutions here in Charleston. So if you want to read those resolutions in North Smithfield, take a look at those. They'd like us to adopt them also. So over the next week, not this agenda, because this agenda has to be in by tomorrow for next week, but for the third week in May. Read over these and just let us know if you want any of these on the agenda, please. Any other questions on that? Any public comment on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Active shooter response upgrading department weapons, resolved that the town council hereby approves the police department's request pertaining to the police upgrade of the police department weapons. This will be funded from the federal and state asset forfeiture fund, and the total cost, weapons and equipment, will not exceed $25,000.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Move the second, the chief, good evening.
Good evening. I did send an email out to all of you gentlemen, and again, I know we've done this in the past. If you remember, roughly about this time last year, we purchased some detective vehicles. So we have two accounts that are from seizure accounts. We have a state account and a federal account. As you know, we have two officers assigned, one to the state HIDA task force. We have one assigned to DEA. So the DEA money obviously goes to federal, the state goes to the state account. There's two different rules and regulations you have to follow with using funds from those accounts. The state account is simply designed for any action that will further assist with the investigation of narcotics investigations. The federal account's a little less stringent. However, it's not just carte blanche. It can be used for items for the police department that are not budgeted for. So obviously, we were able to do some things with detective cars because we budget for patrol cars, and we're able to do things in that aspect. So with this request here, as everyone's aware, today's day and age, active shooter incidents, we do have patrol rifles right now. Many of them, 6 out of the 9 that we have were given to us by the military, where we had to go through, my father used to do it,
Not the grants, the auctions.
thank you. not so much auctions, but so much the surplus, thank you,
Surplus,
Tim,
yeah.
the surplus. So those are the M15 military rifles, which are very good, but they're just not as compact as today's new technology. So with this request, and I was also going to include another request, however, the competitive bidding didn't come in at this point. But with this request, we'll be able to update our patrol rifles to include having more available on the road. So right now, we have 4 available on the road. This will put some in some of the detective cars, the administrative cars, supervisors' cars. So now, if, God forbid, there was an incident, whether it be one of our local businesses, a school, if I was on the road, I'd have one available right there, instead of having to wait. I mean, we don't want to, we will go in, obviously, with our sidearms, but if the intruder has a high-powered rifle, which most of them have, 40% of incidents show that they have that type of weapon, it's a little more difficult for us to take that on. So with that being said, that's why we're requesting this purchase.
Totally agree with you, Chief. God forbid, I hope it never happens,
Right with-
be on the safe side. Any questions for the chief? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Keep getting that state and federal money.
Yes.
Reallocation of money designed for Citizens Appreciation Day to the Animal Shelter for fencing. Resolved that the town council hereby approves the reallocation of money designed for the Citizens Appreciation Day to the Animal Shelter for fencing with the within the Parks and Supplies account 1.100.13.1660.5300.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
This is something we've been talking about for a few weeks, seeing as we're not gonna use the money for the Appreciation Day and the animal shelter. Desperately needs the fencing. We're looking to allocate, reallocate $15,000 towards the fencing. Question I have is who's going to do the bid for the fencing? That should go out like ASAP.
I want to, can I add one to this? I did go to the shelter, check it out a couple weeks ago, and Lori got a bid a couple of years ago, which probably would be no good now, and the estimate was $22,000 at the time. So in speaking with Councilman Licciardi, I had some extra money in my ward fund. I want to explain that because I got an email today, somebody asking me if there's roads that could be paved in my ward. There's not that much money left in my ward fund. We had $47,500 set aside for the playground coming up on Factory Street. In talking with Mark Carullo, we're gonna have approximately between $5,000 and $10,000 left after that. So I'll offer up $5,000 from that fund, depending on what the bid comes in, so that we can get closer to that number of $22,000. So I just wanna add that as well.
Well, if I may add, you might be putting the cart before the horse. If you don't know what the estimate's gonna be, what are you gonna allocate right now? That's the point. If you don't, you might wanna get estimates first.
Correct. I'm just letting you know that there's, I could add $5,000 to that depending on where we get.
So again, this.
The bid was $22,000 2 years ago.
Right.
And the chief, I just want to clarify something. The bid was 20-something thousand a few years ago, but we don't know how that bid took place and who put that bid in. So right now, I would recommend that the chief work on that bid, or the officer.
Gotcha, okay.
Who's the officer that's in charge there?
So right now, it's Lieutenant Blaze.
Lieutenant Blaze. So one of those two should be putting that bid together and bringing that back before the council. And if it's 14,000, we're great.
Okay.
If it's 18,000, then we could discuss
Right.
where we're gonna get the extra money from. Get the bid, and right now, not to exceed 15,000, but get the bid out as soon as possible, and you could probably get it to us, an idea of what's going on anyway within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Week.
so just for a little history, I mean, we did have some bids completed prior to last year's budgeting. We had a capital request, however, the capital request went to building, and George Dumont took that over. Now, that's well over a year. That's some of the quotes they had for that. So I'm sure he has the companies that he used. I can certainly get together or have our liaison get together with building to follow up with what they intended on doing, make sure that's the same plan. And then we'll find out if he still has that, we'll go with that and go
What I'd
forward.
like to also see, and I know, is we have plenty of, couple of fencing companies here in West Warwick that we could reach out to them and use those West Warwick businesses.
We I know I do, always try, and they may not always be the lowest, but we obviously try to give
No, try, yeah.
an opportunity to local companies.
I mean, it's not like I was shocked with the playground. Nobody from Rhode Island did it because there's no, after speaking to Councilman Licciardi, there isn't many people in Rhode Island to do it, but there's plenty of people here in West Warwick that do fences and,
Yeah, that's kind of a different beast
yeah.
together there, but.
Any other questions on that? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We already did aye, so we're on J.
Ordinance number 2018-9, second reading, sponsored by Vice President D'Amico. An ordinance, Chapter 4, Animals and Fowl, Article 2, Animal Control, Section 4-29, license and registration required of the Code of Ordinances for the town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
So this was just a refresher memory. This was basically to be in compliance with state regulations, and they're just basically language updates.
Any questions on that? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-10, second reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, an ordinance amending Appendix C, traffic ordinances of the town, of the Code of Ordinances of the town of West Warwick, Winthrop Avenue, no parking sign.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Yeah, and this is the second reading, covered it last time. There's a portion of Winthrop Ave where there's already no parking on one side, but it's really tough to see when you're coming over that. So I went to the traffic commission and they recommended we put stop sign, no parking signs on both sides of the road.
Any questions on that? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes?
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-11, second reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin, an ordinance amending Chapter 5, Buildings, Article 2, Fences, Sections 5-55, and Chapter 15.5, Soil Erosion and Sediment Control, Article 1 in general, Sections 15.5-2 and 15.5-3 of the Code of Ordinances for the town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moving second, same thing, this is just language cleanup for fences and sediment control. We went over this last month with Al. Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-12 as amended, second reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 9 Personnel Policies and Standards Manual of the Code of Ordinances for the town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I thought for some reason or another this was tabled, but I could be wrong.
I don't think so.
I don't have the minutes in
All
front.
right. Again, this was just to clean up the language to match the ordinance to the employee handbook, the administrator's handbook, actually, not really the town employees, it's more department heads. Any public comment? Hearing none. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-13, second reading, sponsored by Councilman Licciardi, an ordinance amending Chapter 12.5, Parks and Recreation, Article 3,
This
McCarthy
was
Field of the Code of Ordinances of the town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Again, this was tabled. That I
Right.
do know. Because I was waiting for Al to work with Tony Duffy with the proper rates
Right.
and everything else, and all the proper rates aren't even on here, so
Just don't
I
even
motion to
act.
table this.
Take it
Don't
off.
even act, don't even act on it.
No.
I knew this was tabled, but this shouldn't even be on the agenda.
This is,
And this one should be tabled too, the tobacco
Yeah.
deal is licensed, because we had an issue, I don't know what happened here, but, because I actually emailed Al with a recommendation that this license actually even go higher than what it was. So,
no
I take
action
no
on both?
action on O.
N and O? And O?
No on no.
No
N and O.
Okay.
No action on no.
Okay. No, sorry. Appointments. Appointment for the West Warwick Pension Board. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Pension Board for the town of West Warwick with a term to expire 11/18/21.
Move the, resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
There's one name on here, Ralph Salmanzi?
Solomonese.
Salmanese, is anyone,
Somebody spoke to me about this individual yesterday.
never heard?
Is Mr. Salmonese here? If you look at it, he has a bachelor's in the University of Rhode Island of Public Administration.
Masters.
He worked for the Department of Human Services for 25 years. Knowledge of pension issues due to education and experience in areas mentioned above. I'm trying to think who talked to me about this individual last night.
I mean, his credentials are good, but I just don't like appointing people that I don't know or someone knows of.
I agree with the councilman, I
Saj, was it
think.
you that talked to me
I
last
mean-
night? Yeah. It was. Can you go up and speak on behalf?
Okay.
Do you know the individual? Yes, I do. You want to come up and speak on behalf of them, since they're not here tonight?
He's not here tonight, so I don't know, if you want me to, I will.
I just table it, wait.
All right, we'll table and see if we can get him here next time so we can talk to him. I'll actually call him also.
I make a motion to table the appointment.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Table.
Reports, managers report?
May 1st, next Tuesday. Thank you.
Yes, I have one item to mention. On our March 6th council meeting, we spoke about a new program that was created under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. It created an Opportunity Zone program. And the intention of this was to attract private investment, creation of new businesses, startups, expansion of existing businesses, real estate projects, where the investors of these programs could invest capital gains into these type of projects and receive federal financial incentives that can go up to 10 years. And at the time, we received very little notice, as most communities did, to do this. So the application had to be filed by the following Friday, which was, I believe, the 9th. And again, under this program, the state of Rhode Island would look to submit 25 applications for these census tract areas, that would be eligible. So there was something like maybe 13 communities, over 120 different census tracts. So the state of Rhode Island finished their review, and I'm pleased to say one of our submittals was accepted for the 25 that the state of Rhode Island is going to be submitting to the Department of Treasury, as every other state is. So again, so that was very good. We are in the running. We made the cut from the state, and so the next step is to wait and see what happens at the Treasury level, and we should know in about a month. So that's very good news, and it basically encompasses the Arctic area. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that Mark and Elaine did a great job in a very short period of time putting together a very substantial application that was able to be reviewed and approved and accepted by the state of Rhode Island. So that's some very good news, and we'll see how we fare, at the federal level when the Department of Treasury reviews it. So, but it is encouraging, and just wanted to report that back.
Any questions for the town manager? Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance report?
There is no finance report tonight.
Board reports?
5.
Just a couple of things real quick. For those who are following the Coventry Crompton Meadows development, I spoke to the planner in Coventry about 2 weeks ago. There's nothing really going on there. They haven't submitted any updated plans to move forward at this point, so I think some of the residents who live in that area will be happy with that, at least for now. The condo development on Greenbush seems to be moving along. Other than that, it's been kind of quiet. I do want my constituents to know I spoke to Fred at DPW regarding sanding, right, sweeping, rather, not sanding, but sweeping, street sweeping, and it's flip-flopped every other year. So last year we started Ward 5, this year Ward 5 will be last. So we're probably looking at late May, somewhere in there, was that correct? Maybe July, even that far out? Okay. Okay. Other than that, very quiet.
Just one thing. On Saturday, April 14th, I participated in the Earth Day cleanup. And Councilman D'Amico had joined me to clean up the Crompton Playground, the fishing pier, and Pulaski Street. And there were 5 of us cleaning, and it was just nasty. I know we're never going to solve the littering and the trash problem. It's everywhere in America. But we just opened the fishing pier. And obviously there's no trash on the pier itself, but just around it. We ended up getting 2.5 to 3 bags from the fishing pier in the Crompton Playground. And to me, it's just way too much. Has nothing to do with our crew. It'd be great if people listening could to do their best not to litter. That's part of what makes the entire town, put the entire town in a bad light. And last thing, as you're driving by Pulaski Street, a couch was placed. It wasn't there when we cleaned. A couch was placed, and I call it the dumping zone, where the mill is. And what I hate to do is ask Freddie to go and take it, because the more we take it, the more it's just going to be there. But it's right out in the open. If you could pick it up, it'd be great. I'm not encouraging dumping there. That's all. But it's all I have for Ward 4.
Great. Actually, I'll tie into Jay here with this, the playground project coming up on Factory Street. I know the Recreation Committee is going to be going through the bids, correct? Are you meeting, is the Recreation Committee scheduled to meet next week?
Scheduled to meet April 30th.
And it's totally not on you. It's imperative that committee meets, because, and I'm not blaming this.
11 months, man. 11 months
no,
I've wanted to meet, so I have nothing to do with that.
It's imperative that it meets, because they're going to be going through the bids for this playground project, which is on a timetable, so it's imperative that board meets.
Listen, it's very simple. People who can't make it and keep postponing it, get them off the board and set up a new board. The people that can go there. It's very simple.
The minimum, you need 3 people to have the meeting? It's like it's a council meeting? Okay. Yeah, you need a quorum. All right, so we'll address that more as we go forward with the playground project coming up. I did the Holmes building while I was in New Orleans. The Holmes building came down. Thank you, Councilman D'Amico, in his role as vice president, was instrumental in helping to get that down. I know it had a lot of sentimental value, but it was something that needed to come down. It wasn't looking too good over there.
Well, when you say sentimental, I could tell you, I was there the day that the front of the building fell onto Washington Street. I talked to Kevin Wilbur, who was the owner, and his son Justin, Justin lives in town. They are looking to redevelop that building, but they took down the sign of the Holmes building sign, and their intentions are, if something does go back up there, that they're going to rejuvenate that sign and reconstruct it and put it back up. Whether it's going to be the Holmes, whatever building, but they plan on bringing it back into the mix of a new building.
I did talk with Kevin as well, and he has every intention of putting something back up there, not like we here in West Warwick, we're going to be doing this down the road. They have every intention of doing something in the near future, immediately, so hopefully as we go forward, we can have some more updates on that, and hopefully the council can get behind that too, and we would all love to see, we don't want to see another empty lot there. That's the last thing we want to see is another empty lot, so it'd be great to get something up there. And finally, I just spoke with Lori today from the Civic Center, and we're in the early stages of planning this, but in September 8th, if you want to mark your calendars, we're planning a 5K. I know I brought this up a few months back. We're going to plan a 5K walk.
Yeah.
Does it come with a motor?
What?
Does it come with a motor?
Yeah, you can walk, yeah.
gasoline.
Yeah, we'll push you in a wagon, Dave.
Between the five of us, we probably couldn't.
So
do
that's gonna be
tomorrow.
coming up
He's-
September 8th. We'll have more details.
I think I
As I
could.
said, we just talked to Lori about that today, so that's it for Ward 3.
All right, two, a couple of things. Same thing, last week, I want to thank the Patuxent River Authority. I was with them all day Saturday from 8 o'clock to about 1 o'clock. We took over 40 bags of trash out of the Riverwalk, a few tires, and ironically, the next day, somebody put on Facebook about a little area that we have behind the school buses. And we actually thought that person cleaned it up the day before, and that didn't happen. But I happened to be there for a softball opening, and I hear somebody rummaging around in there, and Jerry Lett was in there. And I asked him what he's doing, and he said, instead of complaining, I'm here fixing the issue. And I grabbed the gloves out of my truck, and I spent a half hour with him. He brought out 3 or 4 bags of bottles and cans. Now, I just want to make it clear, there could be small trash coming from the buses, but it's not coming from the bus company. It's blatantly coming from the basketball courts and the tennis courts, the hills, where everything washes that way. You can see the silt coming right up to where the bottles are. So it's just common sense that it's being washed in there. We do need to focus on it and keep it clean, because that does go into our drainage system throughout the park. And if those bottles are clogging that drain, we want to make sure we're keeping that clean. The biggest issue I'm having in my ward right now is they started the bridge on Clyde Street. They're paying 2 details. The state is 2 details every day from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But they're not working on the bridge. They started and they haven't stopped. They stopped and they haven't been there in over a week. Can we check in with the state and see what's going on with that bridge?
Dave, one thing, I know it's your ward, but I have friends that own businesses
Everybody
there.
drives by there and can't get
You
in
know,
business.
it just doesn't make sense. You got 2 police officers there. They want one side of the bridge knocked off. I don't know, maybe the chief can answer my question. When we had the same problem on East Avenue, chief, and when I got together with them, we made a deal, and you were very vocal in it too, and helped me out, where they have a police officer on one side, they stop traffic, they have the radios, let that traffic come, when it backs up on the other side, stop that side, let the other side go. There's no reason that they can't let 2-way traffic get to them businesses over there, unless I'm missing something, but.
I'll be honest, I was in the original meeting, and I requested a red light, and the chief was there, but one of the biggest issues is the side streets, and also, chief, I'll let you speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different location than most bridges, not only in West Warwick, but anywhere. You have a 4-way intersection at the one end of that bridge. And rest assured, you have 2-way traffic there. You're gonna have traffic past the library, past the water authority, especially at rush hours. And then the other way, God knows how long. The engineers who conducted the study came up with the plan. I mean, they wanted 1 police officer in the beginning, just 1 at the red light end. We were able to have meetings. We talked about a red light down the other end to kind of stop the traffic coming into Arctic, so southbound, a little further down. So if there was a rescue vehicle, a fire engine, a police vehicle, we wouldn't have to try to clear 10 or 15 cars off the bridge. But they did agree to get the 2nd officer there, so we could have at least an officer on each end to stop vehicles should a fire truck, rescue, police car, any other emergency vehicle go through. So that's where we are now. My personal opinion, you have 2-way traffic there, it's just not gonna work. It's not a bridge with just 2-way traffic. You have a 4-way
You're
intersection.
gonna put them out of business.
It just is not, and I know that they were hoping in the meeting to complete by July,
The way they're going, they're
August.
not finished next year at this time.
We made mention of things coming up in town on Labor Day, and I cannot control, that portion there. Well, certainly, I can reach out to the the supervisor for the DOT and just see what their plan is, but, I mean, my recommendation, and of course, it goes by the state, it's a state road, they did the study, but I think you would look at some serious backups
So-
if you had two-way traffic trying to go on that
Chief, the
bridge.
other thing I'm very concerned with on our end is, it sounds like this bridge is, from what they're finding, is gonna go over budget. And when they go over budget, in other communities, they have asked the community to eat the police detail.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that from 7 AM to 10 PM, and all of a sudden, 7 months down the road, they're saying that the town should be responsible for that detail. That's what I'm very concerned with, so we gotta keep an eye on that and make sure it does not happen.
We had a meeting not too long ago, the hours were 7 AM to 10 PM. We were able to come up with a 7 to 7, so they cut it a little bit to try to, I mean, the main concern obviously is rescue vehicles at any time, but more so the rush hour times, to at least have officers there to try to keep it flowing as good as possible.
And unfortunately, by the time everybody goes past Woodside Avenue, they're taking Maple. And I will say, the department's doing a very good job. I think handed out over 100 tickets in that area for blowing through that stop sign on Sunrise and Maple. I know the judge was dealing with that this time around in court. Again, I made it clear to the residents over there are very pleased that we have a lot of police presence. I'm sure the people driving through there are not as pleased, but, you know, good job with that, controlling that anyway. That's all I really have for Ward 2 that I can think of at this point. Thank you, Chief. So, Ernie, if we could just find out from the state what's going on with that.
Yeah, that parade's coming closer every day.
It's already been clear.
But, yeah.
One,
Just a few things. Freddie, by the way, thank you for that cleanup on Tanglewood, that National Grid left us a mess again with limbs that they throw on people's property like they own it. The second thing is, Freddie, how do we make out, what's the update on Mrs. Medeiros' house up in Tanglewood where,
We're just texting right now, we're probably gonna put a berm there, because there's no concrete left for the curb.
the plows ate that right up, and she's such a fanatic over there, that yard's beautiful, and it makes her sick, it's just a shame. We're gonna take care of that for her? All right, thank you.
right on that, Freddie. Ashenbolt, you guys fixed the sidewalk last year with asphalt. The plows tore it up. If you wanna just take a look right around the corner here. That was brought up to me last night when I was leaving. The resident was there. Yeah, the Ashenbolt, you guys did the
And
sidewalk.
what was brought up the other day with the wall over here? Did somebody hit the wall? I never
Somebody
even
hit the,
noticed it.
well, that's the thing. No, the wall right here in front of the police department.
Did they get a card? I mean.
They got a call for it. I think they have to run an insurance, but yeah, that wall needs to be fixed.
Wait, I get hit again?
No, it hasn't been fixed.
No, yeah, it's not recent, that was about,
It was
few months back,
midwinter.
right?
It was
Yeah,
midwinter
yeah.
that hit was hit.
Okay.
Upcoming appointments, Technology Committee, Sewer Use Tax Board of Review, Pension Board, West Warwick Public Library, Board of Tenants Affairs, and Patuxent River Authority. Public comment, anything from the council?
we have two,
Mrs. Young, I know yours is gonna be a little lengthy, so I'm gonna let Mr. Tivy go first.
I can't stay here all night.
Nah, you're pretty quick, Mr. Tivy. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bertram Tivy, T-I-V-E-Y, Jr. I live at 104 Aberdeen Street. I'm going to play the yes card the first time in my life. I'm 77 years old. I'm a super senior. My birthday says West Warwick. It doesn't say Warwick, it says West Warwick. Now I'll get into business. You were on the planning committee that authorized the condos on North Pleasant Street in 2007, I think.
No, 4.
Yeah, huh?
4 or 5. He wasn't on the planning board. In '06, he was on the council.
Well, whatever. Anyhow, it got approved.
Yep.
And then the bottom dropped out of the real estate. And then finally, in the last couple of years, the owners allegedly sold it to somebody. They kept the Cranston land, which is gonna be, I think, this big solar farm, a big clearing. The clearing butts the condos. I butt the condos on the south side, general south side. They came in and they cut everything. There was supposed to be a 50-foot buffer, no cut zone. They leveled it. There was supposed to be, plus they cut into my land and cut a bunch of trees too. Now, I'm in a predicament. No, wait a minute now. This is 2016. Keep that in mind. 20 months this has been going on. Somebody in this town hall is brushing things under the rug. That's why I want to invite you people, as well as the planning commission, to come up. Free parking, and I'll give you a tour.
Bert, first of all, they had no right to cut any, if the planning board gave them the okay to build,
Yep.
they had stipulations. They have to follow them, number one.
They totally disregard them, and this town has done nothing.
Well,
They should have been shut down and fined
Well, they
and
have
told
to.
to replant before you stop back up.
that has to be put back to the original vegetation that was.
So
Well,
Councilman,
it was giant forest trees.
Hold on one second.
Well-
And exactly, I have.
65, 75 feet,
Mr. Tippy,
oaks, this
He's
size.
not the only resident, that had that
Yeah, but
happen.
why are they
Hold
getting
on,
away
let me
with it?
finish. So,
That's why I'm up here.
listen, I've gone to the building official, previous,
Who?
me, I've gone to the building official.
What
asked-
building official, though? That's what I meant.
Our building official,
Who? Which one?
George Dumont. I went to George Dumont when we
Yeah.
had drainage issues. Okay, they've been pumping water off the site into the back facilities.
Oh,
back
well, that's
residence.
another problem.
So Mark Carullo has visited, DEM has visited. So we've been on top of it. Now, the tree situation, Mark Carullo and myself toured Mr. Tivvy's property with Mr. Tivy.
Many times.
Well,
I think you've been there 2 or 3 times.
I go there on probably a bi-weekly basis just to see what's going on
Well-
over there, because I got other neighbors also complaining.
By my invite, you've been there 2 or 3 times with Mark,
Mark was with me
okay?
once.
Well, Mark came one time without you. He said
So
you weren't
Mark-
available.
Mark-
I've asked you guys to bring the building inspector. I have never
been
seen
out.
a building inspector come with you
Because
guys.
the building official's been out on LOA.
Wait a minute. When this all started,
No, when.
Mr. Anderson was still the building inspector.
I understand, but when I met you, when I went up there with Mark, it wasn't Mr. Anderson, it was George Dumont.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story about that.
So,
No, I think I got the floor, don't I?
no, come on, Mr. Tivy, we can work together.
No,
here.
really. Really, I didn't plan to come up here tonight. I came here to make you nervous. That's
I'm
all.
nervous?
I'm dead serious. I came here just to make you nervous.
Why is that?
Huh?
Why-
Why is that? Shame on you.
For what?
Did you ever hear of follow-up and feedback?
Yes,
Did
Mr.
you ever
Tibbetts.
ask Mark how you doing on
Yes,
that?
yes, Mr.
What did
Tibbetts.
we do?
Yes, Mr. Tivy, ask your son, I emailed your son.
I saw that, yes.
And I said, did
I'm
anybody?
gonna get to that.
But I asked him, did anybody get back to you on this? And then I sent the email to Mark the following morning saying, Mark, can you please follow up on this?
Yeah.
And then Mark said, he sent an email to your son saying that the previous owner is no longer the owner, or the person
That's
is a
right.
new developer or a new owner, and he sent the letter to him.
Well,
'Cause
let
it
me
didn't
tell
go to
you-
his attorney,
let me
or
tell you the rest of the
His attorney's
story.
not representing him.
Let me tell you the rest of the story. Number one, the overcutting on my property, I've been informed through the senior hotline to the Attorney General's office. I have to hire a lawyer,
I informed you that too.
okay?
Yep.
I have to hire a lawyer. And actually, I gotta hire a surveyor and plot out all the damage and count the stumps and measure them, the ones they hadn't dug up already. All right? That's, now I'm only addressing the no-cut zone. Mind you, this is in my backyard. If I go to the north side of my house, I can see right through. In fact, I turned them in the other day to George. I don't know if it merits a fine or not. I came here Thursday or Friday and get some copies of the building permits of the 3 units that they're putting up right now. She only had one on file for the one that they're working on right now. It was the foundation only. I said, really? I said, I can see rafters from my house.
See it shingled inside it.
Hmm?
You can see it shingled inside it.
No, no, no,
The
no.
second one, the second unit.
This third one. She only had a permit for the foundation. They had it all framed already. I could see the rafters going up from my house. She said, I'll tell George. Next day, they were still working. I don't know. Please look into that. Sorry, we've never met. I've been keeping you out of this because this has been going on since 2016. And you were kind of a late arrival.
That's fine.
Okay? So, 2016, August, boom, they just dropped all the trees on my property. No, you don't do that when you clear cut. You cut, clean up, but all of a sudden, within a couple hours, 3 guys with chainsaws. So that tells
It wasn't
me,
even a tree company, it was just
well,
3 guys with chainsaws.
it's deliberate. That tells me that's deliberate.
I agree with you 100%.
Why? The name of the place is The Orchard. Hey, if you look at the blueprint, there isn't much room to plant fruit trees. And if they do, they needed sun. Just my theory. I gotta eat that as a senior, 77 years old. I gotta eat the surveyor, the lawyer, and now you just made a statement. We don't have a bond on people like that? They didn't post a bond?
I confirmed, I asked that question.
Shame on us. No bond. These guys come in, they're gonna put 100 condos for over $300 a piece, 300,000 a piece. What's that, 30 grand? 30 million maybe? Phase 1 is 21 condos. They broke it, I guess, probably for tax purposes. But, you know, something's wrong. Nothing's going on here. Somebody is definitely putting that under the rug. Okay? Anderson comes in, boom, right off the bat, August. They just cut the trees. Oh, and they never put the property line in. They never staked it. My property and their property. Oh, that was a big outfit. That's when they cut all the trees. It wasn't staked off.
Let me ask a question. That should have been staked off where their property line was.
Really?
And then,
Angelo, there was
You've
actually
got
supposed
a-
to be a fence all the way around it.
well, he's got a 50-foot wall. That's why now we have ordinances, and this is what I say, we keep passing ordinances and resolutions, and we never follow up on them. It makes our laws worthless.
Somebody in here has got to grow some.
A lot of people gotta grow some.
Yes, I
Well,
think it is a problem.
I
That's one of
agree.
the reasons I never got it, you
But
know.
anyway, being on a planning board for as many years as I was, till 2005 or 6, whatever it was, they have that on record, a 50-foot buffer. That has to be a 50-foot buffer, or they can stop that job.
I know.
Because I'm going through the same problem.
Angelo, that's why
Next
I'm
door
up
to
here.
my house. I'm
That's
going
why-
through the same problem, Bert. I'm going through the same problem.
Well, do you know anybody in town hall?
Obviously not.
Maybe you can get them fined or something.
Ernie,
Stop the work.
Can George go out and look at that tomorrow? If there's not, question now,
Yeah.
if the proper paperwork isn't there,
Wait,
from what you're saying, correct?
this happened last Thursday. She said, I'll tell George when he comes back. Well, I come from big business. I know what follow-up and feedback is. I called the next morning, and I said, did you tell George about that condo going up? And I got pictures in this envelope. And she said, yes. I said, the 3rd condo. She said, yeah. Oh, wait, no. It got crazy around here. And I think she was covering up for George. I really do. She got crazy around, because she just gave me a yes, and then it got crazy around here, and she's a nice lady, and I'm sure she was just covering for the boss.
Can George go out and look at this ASAP?
He's probably been out there. Because they didn't lose a beat.
So the question I have though, right, just to clarify, if they don't have the proper permits, they're most likely gonna say, yes, we did them, yes, we
No,
have
they
them.
didn't.
And if they can't produce them, then that means, and we don't have them,
Well, we'll know right away.
that means they're not there.
Should know right.
We'll know
So,
right away if they pulled the
so,
permit.
so if that's the.
I did. I found
So-
out that the morning.
so
She
if
gave me
that's
the
the
one
key-
foundation only.
So if that's the case,
Unless it was done online.
does George has the authority to
No.
stop the job, correct?
Unless it was, I don't know.
Yes.
No. George finally made it there the second day sometime. I don't know. At 11 o'clock, I remember that I looked down there and the carpenters were gone.
But he has to abide by the rules that the planning board.
Angelo, you're not getting what I'm telling you guys. That's why I'm up here in front of all of you people, and I'm inviting you up,
I believe you.
okay, as a group, and bring the planning board too, because the planning board sets the rules. Somebody in this house here is disregarding the rules. Why? How come? Okay, now we go on. Mr. Anderson gets fired. He told them, stop the job, or whatever, put the stake out that line, and while you're at it, oh, in the meantime, they were after him to get a permit to put their first foundation in. However, the planning rules that the planning board said, after the fence is in, no building permits will be issued until the fence is in. So, Mr. Anderson gets fired. Little time goes by, I see a foundation being stripped. I call Carrillo. I say, hey, what's going on? They haven't even started the fence. He sent George, supposedly George was sent over there right away to stop the job. Now, whether George issued the permit, they did have a permit. Shouldn't have had.
George issued the permit.
Listen, did George's name, I was gonna get a copy of that tomorrow. I wanted to see whose name was on
George
it.
issued the.
Because, who briefed?
As you called me on that, Mr. Tivy, because Mark and I both told you that when we met up at your property. George issued a permit because he did not read the portion of the project of the fence. So the question at that time was Mark came back and asked why the permit was issued without the fence being installed. Then he started installing the fence. Now, there was a portion of the fence you asked him not to install because you had to do something
No,
according to them.
no.
I don't know if it was the trees.
Maybe
or
they're
what.
talking about phase two. He asked me if he could when they got up in the area of phase two, which is supposedly not authorized,
Yep.
me being a good neighbor like a dope, I said, fine. Okay? But in the meantime, like I say, that foundation set there. So that's a major infraction, I think. Well, George issued it, I don't know. But why wasn't George informed? Mr. Carrillo was the guy in charge. The day Anderson got fired, I came here to see Anderson, to see how he was doing. And everybody was standing there mulling in the hallway up there. And I asked the girl at the the building inspector's desk, where Anderson was. She said, oh, he don't work here anymore. I think that meeting had just broke up, telling everybody in the town hall that Mr. Anderson didn't work here.
Yep.
No, why? Well, I don't want to know in front of all of these people, but I got to ask, was Mr. Anderson a problem? Because he told them to stake out the job and...
Mr. Anderson quit.
You can go back and watch the meeting, it was public.
Why did he quit? Was somebody
He took a job in
pressuring?
Smithfield the following day.
I don't want to get there,
Okay.
all right? I was told his services were severed. To me, that says, hey, or maybe they said, quit or be fired. I don't know. But it was ironic. Hey, we got an enforcer. Hey, he's gone. I went over to Presley at the time, who was standing in the hallway, and I said, who's filling in for Anderson?
Yep.
He says, Carullo. I said, which one is he? He said, right there. And that started my love fest with him. I think I've said enough. Hope I got your attention.
So,
I'm in the book.
Mr. Tivy, so just to give you a heads up, I think your son got that email that the attorney that was representing them is no longer representing them.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So the letter of violation went to the proper person last week about those trees.
Yeah, and you know what he did? He came back and he says, oh, I never saw this. I've got all those emails. I would have brought them, except I wasn't, you know, like I say, I only came here to make you nervous because you were in on all those meetings.
Mr. Tivy, I was at your house twice.
Twice? Okay. Carullo was there.
And you talked to me on the phone one other time.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify.
2016.
No, my meeting with you was last winter.
Oh, 2017.
Yeah, early November, Mr. Tivy. You and
Anyhow,
I walked the site.
Carullo sent him a letter finally in November, I believe.
It was November.
Like I say,
The day
telling
after
them
we
that
met-
they were an infraction of for them to get a landscape architect, and get a drawing. We knew, my son and I asked my son, one of my sons is in big construction, and he volunteered to help as much as he could, because he knew I was getting very nervous, as you can see right now, okay?
I think you're calm tonight.
Very calm.
Well, I read the comment on the bottom. It said something about being, conduct yourself in an orderly and respectful fashion. I'm trying to be respectful.
We appreciate
Really,
that.
really. That's the truth. But anyhow, Carullo was my man. Carullo does nothing. He brushes it under the rug. Finally, we put the pressure on him last November or so. He sends off a letter. First time. Anything. Do this, do this, do this. No date by such and such a date. Supposedly registered letter. Well, it's planting season now. My son bugged him again. Like, what happened? Where's the planting plan to replant? Comes back and he says that the audacity to say the guy never got it. And you bought that too,
I
didn't
didn't
you?
buy it. I'm just.
I'm just telling you what you just said. You bought it,
I
obviously.
didn't buy. I'm telling you what it said, Mr. Tivy. I didn't buy it. I don't know who got it because all I know was the attorney that represented him is no longer representing
Now, let me
him.
tell you something right now. These guys go by the orchard. It isn't the orchard, it's the orchard only. Okay? They're two snakes from Massachusetts. All right? One guy's a minority owner. He's got like 13 or 14%. He's the guy that's doing all the work, the digging and the building and all that stuff. The other guy, I don't know what he does. I only met him once when he came around to my house with a box of pears and a nice letter in it saying how wonderful the place was going to be and they were going to plant all these fruit trees and everybody in the neighborhood be welcome to come down here. Think about that now. Think about that. Who's going to water these trees? Who's going to prune these trees? And then I'm going to go down there in somebody's yard and pick the fruit? I don't think so. But anyhow, I let him go. Anyhow, where are we? Oh, so Mr. Carullo gets a letter, sends off his other letter, calls the guy, and the guy says, hey, I never seen that. That's just in the last week or so. I never seen that. Carullo tells my son that, you know, they tried to go to Newport, where the address was originally for 55 Plus, is
The name, yeah.
the name of the organization or whatever.
They got three different names.
Huh?
They have three different.
Yeah, they're using Orchard, they're using 55 Plus. Well, you can tell Mr. Carrillo, or maybe you guys want to bypass him, I suggest you do. If you send him another letter to find him, right there, that guy in the back. Mr. McGarrett. They're working right on North Pleasant Street. Somebody's there every day. They got builders, they got bulldozers, they got everything. You couldn't find them? Oh, and by the way, if you look at the building permits, you know who's down the bottom? 555? Guess whose address?
I didn't see the permits.
Well, I got 3 of them. I'm gonna stop tomorrow, see if there's a 4th one.
Whose address?
Huh?
Whose address?
Rossi, one of the original owners, Ron Rossi. Phoenix Avenue. Couldn't find anybody? Something's wrong. The guy writes back, by the way, and says, oh, I'll send that right out to a contractor. I never saw this, but I'm gonna get right on it. Don't say, I'll get back to you in a week or so. We just say, oh, okay, we're gonna tuck it in again. What is going on? Something is going on. I'm telling you right now. You guys better get into it, please. Please, please. Like I say, bring the planning board, because I think they're gonna be very happy when they find out that they're doing work and putting in clauses, and there's one guy in the building apparently that can just ignore them, override them. I wasn't prepared to talk, and I'm sorry I took
No,
this
thank you.
long.
Thank you, Mr. Tivy. We'll make sure the town manager follows up.
I gotta go meet.
I did call him last week, and he never called me back.
Well,
I left a message.
well, no, I will say that, thank you very much. I spoke with the building official today about your issue. So I got the issues that you have is with the,
So the overcutting
Yeah.
is my issue. I gotta get a
Right.
lawyer and a surveyor.
right, but I don't have,
I own that.
but some of what you said is a little bit new to me, so.
Well, what's scary about me getting a lawyer and a surveyor? If these guys pick up tomorrow, there's nothing for me to put a lien on. I'm thinking, oh, I can put a lien against the town, the bond that they have posted with the town.
You know,
Nothing.
Bert, not to keep prolonging this or keep reiterating, they have to show you the property line. You don't have to show them. That's a stipulation in every
Although the
plan.
property, it's clear as day, the property line, they cut the wrong trees down. They tried to replant
Well,
trees.
then-
Remember that, Bert? They tried to replant trees.
If
and they died.
their boundary's here, and they're over here, that's their
No,
problem.
no,
Why-
Angelo, he's 100%, it's clear as day when
I
you
know
go
where
out
the
there.
boundary is now. Exactly. I knew pretty close. You know, because I don't just have a little 100 by 100 yard. However,
Don't ruin that tree where I get that mushroom every year.
no, I won't.
Ernie, can you, when you figure out what's going on here, can you let us know, please?
Right, tomorrow morning, I'm out of the office once I get back in. Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbetts.
Sorry I took this much time.
Well, you're the short one, Mary's the long one, I guess, right?
I gotta leave. I gotta
John
go
Reed,
leave.
62 Andrews Avenue. I'm gonna make it short. He just made my point for me, okay? All the letters, all the stuff we've been telling you, maybe we're gonna do something? You all got letters the other day?
Got emails asking us
Okay.
to read.
You see what this poor guy's going through? And you guys look at me like I'm a clown, I'm busting your ass. This guy wasn't. You got some serious problems here. Okay? Permits. Came from him too. Foundation permit, but there's a building. No problem. Multi-million-dollar project, no bond. But we're in a budget, we're losing money. Think about it, guys.
I gotta go meet.
Mrs. Jones?
Jerry, I'm sorry, I gotta go let my niece go at my business.
I'm going to surprise you and not be as long as you think, I hope. Mary Young, 58 Pond Street. I was prepared last night, gotta put these on, to address a host of issues, but remind myself that my focus is on the animal shelter. So I'm going to take up other battles on other days. Listening to your discussion last night, I know the scalpels are out for every dollar that's available. And I'm ambivalent, but can concede the licensing fees for the animal shelter for this year. But I am going to press for the fines and fees estimated at $3,000. That's 25% of what I was hoping for. Those dollars are the product of the work of the animal control officer and the volunteers in caring for the animals. When I became involved with the animal shelter several years ago, I'd walk in the wintertime and find the ACO and volunteers in winter jackets and gloves, and the thermostat was down about as low as it could go. And I asked, "What's this?" And the answer was, "We're conserving oil." I went home and returned with a space heater for the office, which after a couple of days made its way into the kennels. I walked in a couple of weeks ago and there were no lights on, as is often the case. Why? We're conserving electricity. Over the years, I've seen a parade of generous civic organizations and citizens come in with bags of food, blankets, towels, etc. I've seen appeals online for items like bleach and kitty litter. Against my inclination, Angels has resumed doing and paying for the laundry. Why? Because they can do it for a third of the cost of dropping it off and picking it up. They put the quarters in the machine. They reach into their pockets and not the town's. So I hope you can meet me a quarter of the way. The rest of what I'm going to say is piecemeal excerpts from my recent correspondence to you, so I'm not going into everything. The financial relationship between West Warwick Angels caring for animals and the town remains unsettled. Angels was supporting medical care and other needs in the amount of $15,000 to $20,000 a year. Without an agreement, the town has been paying these expenses out of the special dog pound fund for more than 6 months. There is grant money out there for shelters and support organizations, but the grantors want to know that your house is in order. Throughout the discussion since last fall, I have often thought of the animal shelter as the town's orphan. Chief Magera well explained that the policy of the police department states its relationship to the animal shelter as a liaison. He noted that's how it's done in other communities. I know of no other department or organization that has equal positions with no one in charge. While there are varied models, research into how other Rhode Island towns handle their departments, including Coventry, Warwick, Situate, Cranston, East Providence, Gloucester, and Richmond, discloses that typically there is a head, chief, senior, director, call it whatever you will, animal control officer, and assistant animal control officers. They make decisions, manage budgets, and are held accountable to the town manager, administrator, and/or the town council. West Warwick is an outlier. This is where the issue of contractual matters is raised. In your contract with Council 94, management rights, Section 33.1, states in part, the town may, at its discretion, take whatever action necessary to determine, manage, and fulfill the mission of the town and direct the employees not in conflict with this agreement. Section 33.2 states in part, manage its employees to hire, promote, transfer, assign, or retain employees, not contrary. You have the power to act. I have every confidence that the president and future senior ACOs can manage a budget that is less than most households, and I'll tell you why. I looked at the job description of the animal control officer. It's 4 pages and includes 42 essential skills. Now, I've abbreviated and grouped some of them, and I hope this will dispel the myth that it's all puppies and kittens down at the animal shelter. I just want to go through the list, and I'm paraphrasing in some parts. The animal control officer responds to animal complaints regarding wild, domestic, and exotic animals, unlicensed dogs, damage to property, both public and private, for unrestrained animals, complaints of animal bites, barking dogs, abandoned animals on private and public property, unrestrained animals. The animal control officer removes animals from traps, wildlife from commercial and residential property, injured and deceased animals from homes, public property, and roadways, euthanizes according to law, arranges for the disposal of deceased animals, knows the law, rules, regulations, and policies, issues violations and warnings, investigates reports of cruelty to animals, keeps records, writes reports, prepares cases for prosecution, testifies in court, maintains the facility, keeping it clean and making minor repairs, keeping the vehicles clean, inside and out, and reporting any damage. Oh, they also supply food and water to the animals and clean the kennels and blanketing and so forth. Quarantine animals after bites. With regard to the public, they interact and ensure the rights of the public and do public education. And I didn't even look very carefully at the required equipment operation and regular physical effort, required physical effort, until this evening, and I got kind of a kick out of this, and you might. Required equipment operation. Operate a motor vehicle police radio, tranquilizer gun, animal control pole, rifle, various traps, office equipment, computer, fax machine, copy machine, telephone, and other equipment which may be assigned. Required physical efforts. Sitting at a desk, driving a vehicle, or standing at an assigned location and working continuously for extended periods of time. Using issued equipment, office equipment as assigned, capturing animals, running and jumping cracked me up, climbing and carrying. But what was the first essential skill that leapt out at me was ensure that all the animals are properly cared for when coming into the custody of the animal control officer or the assistant animal control officer. Clearly, a hierarchy was contemplated here, and later accountable for the actions and omissions of the assistant animal control officer under his or her supervision, which may be contrary to laws and department rules and policy. And finally, ensure that when the performance of the assistant animal control officer under his or her supervision is unsatisfactory, steps are taken through counseling and means consistent with department policy to assist the person in improving performance. In my opinion, anyone who can handle all that and more can handle an $8,000 to $35,000 budget. Finally, after participating in this budget process in a very minor scale, I want to thank each of you for stepping forward to lead and make the best use of the talent that has been hired to achieve the town's purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thanks. Thank you. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you. Any other public comment? Motion to adjourn?
One more thing, really quick. We just had a man come up here with was very passionate about something going on in his backyard we just had Mr. Reed come up here again for the, I don't know how many times, and we're continuing to get emails regarding a situation. All I know about the situation is from what's been presented from one side, and the emails that we're being asked to read and respond, well, let them know that we've read it. So where's the piece on our side that to either go along with what he's saying? Is there a book? Is there a folder? Is there?
So, I'm gonna
'Cause I'd
respond
like
from what
if we
I
could-
know personally,
Okay.
because they keep asking me also. I will tell you, I was present when the town manager said, our building official is out, he's expected to be back at such and such a date, and I will have an update for you by April 30th. So, that's something that has not been said to this council. So, and unfortunately, they left that out also.
So
So
we're gonna,
now, the town manager, he can give you an update.
As I said,
Wait.
And this has nothing to do with the lawsuit.
No. It's got nothing to do with what's on the agenda item either.
We're on public comment.
You're in public comment, you're asking about, I'm assuming, what they are proposing as far as the investigation that they wanted about a couple of months ago?
everything, I mean,
I know,
everything's
but
coming
I mean,
up.
It's not on the agenda. I mean, how are you gonna answer these questions without people being
So-
here? that
so-
may- that-
so
Wait
he-
a minute, that may be interested, specifically those two guys who just left. Now,
So-
you're gonna talk about a matter.
All right,
of
I
concern.
got it, I
Those
got
two
it,
guys who just left.
Well,
if
put
you-
this on the May 1st
I mean, you
agenda.
start talking about it.
All right, I understand, I
Update.
understand.
Update.
So April 30th, we're gonna know what's going on.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Oh, for the next agenda,
I have it here.
for the next meeting.
can I say anything? Can I?
I mean,
And the only reason I brought it up is because he
For
came up.
informational purposes only, you can respond, but I won't get into the merits of anything, because if you do.
No, I get it. I just brought it up because he came up, and that's
I
fine.
understand that, but I mean, half the time is when a matter is made public, as if it's completely 100% real, you're supposed to react to it. I mean, anything that comes to the town council, town manager, anyone's department on a daily basis, you could take, 40 man-hours to respond to come up with absolutely nothing. So,
Okay.
since there's been a suggestion made that April 30th is the date, I would suggest that the town manager can respond informational purposes only, but don't really get into the merits of it, because nothing's ready to go.
So we can leave the meeting now if you'd like, and we can just listen to your response at the next meeting. I'm fine with that.
Right. But put it on the agenda to speak about it, so people that are interested in the
Okay.
subject matter can be here to hear what the discussion is, and perhaps then comment to that public comment.
Okay.
With that being said, before we do adjourn, as much as that development, the orchard is going on, what Mr. Tivy said here tonight, we have been trying to work with them. I don't know what happened with correspondence, but with that being said, if they're putting up buildings and doing stuff without the proper permits, they need to be shut down. I've already had DEM there, as Mr. Tivy says, we don't follow up, but I can tell you DEM's been there 3 times for pumping water off the site into other people's yards. DEM has been there, Mark Carullo has been there. Unfortunately, the correspondence to Mr. Tivy did not happen, and that is our fault, because we went there in November, we did send a letter out, we found out after following up that the attorney was no longer representing him. That attorney never told us he wasn't representing him until last week, so after Mark made a phone call.
What about when he mentions about them not posting a bond? Is that something we need to change as an ordinance, or is that we're just not doing it? Are we able to do that?
That's something we need to look at, because we gotta protect the neighborhoods and everything else. Now, I always
That's the
thought,
second time it got brought up tonight with the
Well,
other project on Wakefield as well.
again,
No, I get it.
I was confused. I thought every major development had some sort of bond. Whether it's an I know they're insured, the construction companies have to be insured. But for instance, I had a development off of Sunrise that included about 12 houses over there. They had a $1 million bond that, as the project went along, they would come before the council and ask for a reimbursement. of their bond, so a portion of it. So if 50% of it was done, they wanted 50% of their bond. Obviously, they're tying up money, a lot of money, so they needed that money to finish off the project. That's something we need to look at and maybe get with Al from zoning.
Yeah.
Because you run into a situation, I know Councilman Padula got flooded because of that reason.
Yeah.
I could tell you the orchard cut down trees in people's yards, and by far it was the shadiest thing I've ever seen as far as tree removal, because there was nobody there with log removers. There was just guys dropping trees, crisscrossing. There was no rhyme or reason, and they did cross all the way into somebody's backyard and took out 4 of their large trees. At that point, I told them that they, not Mr. Tibby, another house, that they would probably have to hire an attorney, because the age of the tree, there's so many methods to replacing a tree, the dollar value. They actually go by the, how many years it is, how long it take to grow, and they make a dollar value. Mr. Tivy, what he failed to say was, they did replace trees that they did remove. They dug up some pine trees, brought them over. But they planted them in August and didn't water anything. If anybody knows, you don't plant any month with a U, I think it is. That's how it works.
Oh, real?
It's the green thumb I heard. So you don't transplant, you don't do anything with the month with a U, I think it is. So, and that's June, July, and August.
Thank you.
So, they transplanted trees in August. Obviously, there was no water on site, nothing, so they died. And that's when Mr. Tivy called us in November to show us those dead trees. So, you know, again, we need to focus on that development and the building official's office in general. Yes, I understand we were short-staffed. We are utilizing a gentleman from Coventry and sometimes Warwick. But now that he's back, we need to get back on board with some of these projects, make sure they're getting the permits. And his online permitting thing could be the issue. They could be going online applying for a permit. By the way, I did that today for Warwick. I just went out and looked at how it worked, because I was looking at a piece of land I own in Warwick, and I can do the permit and print it up pretty much right there. So we need to look at that process and make sure online permitting is working. All right,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Before we lose our quorum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, where'd everybody go? Ayes have it, right?
Yeah, but let you set up, yeah, we'll lose them one by one.